3 executions. No justice, only silence and the machinery of power. Lady Jane Grey, Joan of Arc, Marie Antoinette. Each woman was condemned by verdicts shaped not by their own crimes, but by political schemes and false legal pretexts. What did these women truly die for? Who decided their fate? In just a few moments, you will see how 3 lives, crushed by faith, fear, politics, and power, became the most damning verdicts in history. The 3 coldest betrayals. 3 verdicts that changed the world forever. London, 1553. A teenage girl, just 17, walked beneath the shadowed walls of the Tower of London. Her name was Jane Grey. She had never imagined herself at the heart of a nation's storm. Jane belonged to a world of books and quiet faith, not crowns and daggers. Born into privilege, every advantage became a prison. Her parents' ambitions overshadowed her own. Tutors pressed her to master Greek, Latin, and Scripture before most girls could read. Protestant teachings shaped her beliefs, turning her into a symbol for a country divided by faith. Jane's fate was sealed far from her wishes. King Edward VI, her cousin and half-brother to Mary Tudor, dying and desperate to preserve Protestant reforms, altered the line of succession. His devise for the succession, backed by the Privy Council, named Jane as heir, pushing aside Mary Tudor. The Duke of Northumberland, hungry for power, arranged Jane's marriage to his own son, Guildford Dudley, securing his family's place in the new regime. Jane was never asked. When the news came, she wept. She pleaded for it to stop, but her voice was drowned by others. Jane, crowned in fine silk, looked lost and uncertain. Her husband, Guildford, sat beside her, silent as a shadow. The city watched in wary silence. Few wanted a girl forced onto the throne by others' ambition, but Mary Tudor, the rightful heir, gathered her supporters. The city turned against Jane. Mary entered London as queen, ending Jane's brief reign. Abandoned even by her own family, no rescue would come. Jane wore the crown for only 9 days. Locked in the Tower, Jane faced Queen Mary's messengers. They demanded she abandon her Protestant faith and accept the Catholic rule of Queen Mary. She refused. She would not betray her beliefs, even as hope vanished. After her father's failed rebellion, Mary's patience ended. Jane was sentenced to death by beheading. The charge: high treason. February 12, 1554. Jane walked to the scaffold. She first watched the execution of her husband, Guildford Dudley, also for treason. Then she faced her own fate with composure. Her last moments were witnessed by nobles and onlookers. It was not guilt that sealed her fate, but the ambitions and fears of others. Jane addressed the crowd. "Good people, I am come hither to die. By the law, I am condemned to this fate." She knelt, praying and washing her hands in innocence before God. Her final words were, "Lord, into thy hands I commend my spirit." The executioner raised his axe. In a single moment, it was over. The crowd stood silent, struck by her youth and resolve. Jane Grey, the girl who never wanted a crown, was gone. Another life ended by the cold decree of power. But England was not alone in turning on its daughters. In another land, another century, a peasant girl would face fire for her visions. Her courage, too, would echo through the ages. Domremy, 1412. Morning breaks over muddy fields. A young girl helps her father mend fences, gathers water, and prays with her mother before sunrise. Joan of Arc is a farmer's daughter, raised on hard work and Catholic faith. At 13, Joan begins to hear voices, clear, insistent, the voices of saints: Saint Michael the Archangel, Saint Catherine, and Saint Margaret. With every vision, her sense of duty grows. The message is always the same: she must save France and see Charles crowned king. Officials, priests, and nobles dismiss her, but Joan's certainty never wavers. After years of persistence, she sets out at 17, crossing a country torn by the 100 Years' War, a long conflict between France and England. Her goal is simple: to reach Charles, the Dauphin, the rightful heir to the French throne. When she finally stands before him, Charles is hesitant, but the desperation of France leaves him with little choice. He gives Joan armor and command of an army, sending her to the besieged city of Orléans. Joan is never trained as a soldier. She carries a banner, not a sword. Still, her faith and presence ignite the French troops. Under her leadership, the siege is broken. Soldiers storm the battlements, villages erupt in relief, and Orléans is free. Over the next months, Joan leads Charles from battle to battle. Against all odds, Charles, the Dauphin, is finally crowned King of France in Reims. A peasant girl, guided by visions, changes the fate of France. But victory breeds suspicion. English commanders, and even some of Charles's allies, begin to fear Joan's influence. In 1430, in the city of Compiègne in northern France, Joan is captured by Burgundian soldiers, French allies of the English, and sold to the English army. Her trial takes place in Rouen, a city in northern France, then under English occupation. The trial is led by church officials loyal to the English. The charges: heresy, witchcraft, and dressing as a man. The records are changed. Witnesses are silenced. Every truth is erased, and the process is corrupted. Joan stands alone before a court that has already decided her fate. Her pleas for a fair church trial are ignored. Under threat of burning at the stake, Joan is forced to sign an abjuration, a document in which she renounces her visions and admits guilt. But the next day, knowing her voices are true, she retracts her confession. On May 30th, 1431, English soldiers lead Joan into the crowded marketplace of Rouen. She is tied to a tall wooden stake. A sign reading, "Heretic, relapsed, apostate, idolater," hangs around her neck. The crowd surges around her. Joan's last words are a prayer for forgiveness and a plea to bring her across. A soldier quickly fashions a cross from 2 sticks and holds it high, so Joan can see it through the smoke. The flames are lit. Joan calls out, "Jesus! Jesus!" After her death, her ashes are gathered and thrown into the Seine River to prevent any relics from being kept by her followers. She was just 19 years old. In France, the war raged on. But in another French city, in another century, the fate of a queen would end not in flames, but beneath the cold blade of revolution. Paris, 1793. On the morning of October 16th, Marie Antoinette, once the most powerful woman in France, is taken through the streets in a plain cart. She wears a simple dress, with no jewels or finery. Her hair is cut short for execution by guillotine, a machine with a falling blade used to behead prisoners. She keeps her eyes forward, saying nothing. Born in Vienna in 1755, Marie was the youngest daughter of Empress Maria Theresa of Austria. At 14, she was sent by her mother to the Palace of Versailles, the royal residence near Paris, to marry the Dauphin, Louis XVI. Life at the palace was strict and suspicious. Marie found comfort in music, fashion, and her private gardens, her only escapes from court gossip. Her Austrian birth marked her as an outsider. Her marriage to Louis remained unconsummated for years, fueling rumors and anxiety. Louis preferred hunting and working with locks to spending time with his wife. Marie's letters to her mother revealed her deep isolation and the constant pressure to produce an heir. She found friendship, and perhaps something deeper, with Count Axel von Fersen. Letters exchanged between Marie and Fersen show a strong affection, fueling endless rumors of a secret affair, though no proof ever surfaced. Still, the scandal followed her everywhere. As France's economy collapsed, Marie became the main target of public anger. Pamphlets and newspapers called her Madame Deficit, blaming her for the nation's debts and hunger. Her love of fashion and her retreats to private gardens at Versailles were exaggerated into stories of excess and luxury. Even her genuine concern for the poor, shown in personal letters, was ignored, lost beneath a wave of suspicion. The French Revolution destroyed the monarchy. After years of crisis, protests, and bloodshed, the old royal order was destroyed. Marie Antoinette, stripped of her royal titles, was brought to trial before a revolutionary tribunal, a court set up by the new government to punish enemies of the people. The trial lasted only a day, rushed and public. The revolutionary laws, once meant to protect the people, now condemned her without mercy. She stood tall, refusing to beg or lie, as false charges were read against her. Her husband, King Louis XVI, had been executed 10 months earlier, convicted of treason for trying to escape France and plotting against the revolution. Marie faced her fate alone. On October 16, 1793, under a gray Paris sky, Marie Antoinette was taken to the Place de la Révolution, the public square where the guillotine stood. Crowds filled the square, silent and watchful. She climbed the scaffold, her hands bound behind her back. As she stepped forward, she accidentally trod on the executioner's foot and said, "Pardon me, sir. I did not do it on purpose." Moments later, the blade fell. There was no triumph, only the hush of rain and the heavy silence left behind. Marie Antoinette, at 37, was gone. Her silence echoed long after the crowd dispersed. History would remember her, but not always with justice. Some saw a villain, others a victim. For many, she remains the last queen of France, forever marked by the shadows of her final day. 3 women, 3 different centuries, 1 truth. Innocence and courage can sometimes be swept away by the tides of power. Jane Grey's sorrow in the Tower, Joan of Arc's resolve at the stake, Marie Antoinette's silent walk through Paris. None of them died for their own crimes. Each fell in a world where justice was twisted, where truth was buried, and lies became law. But their stories are not alone. Anne Boleyn, Catherine Howard, and countless other women, famous or not, met the same fate. All were judged by systems built to destroy them. This episode is dedicated to every woman whose name was erased or shamed, whose truth was silenced, whose courage met the machinery of power. Their deaths are not just stories of the past. They are warnings that echo to this day. When power shapes the verdict, who is ever truly safe? If these stories moved you, join us here at Lore and Legends. Subscribe for more true tales from the shadows of history and help keep their memory alive.